Welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Teri Hunter. I'm an intuitive astrologer, angel therapy practitioner, Reiki master, and empowerment coach. And I'm here today to talk about this week on January 2nd, 2022. We're going to be having a new moon in Capricorn. But before I start talking about that, I just want to give you a little bit of business. All the videos on my channel are based on tropical Western whole sign astrology. I'm an intuitive astrologer, so I use the parameters of traditional astrology, and at the same time, I couple that with my intuitions as an angel therapy practitioner to allow for not only our own evolution, but the evolution of the planets that have influence over our everyday lives. And this new moon is going to kick off the new year of 2022. I don't have to tell you that the last couple of years has really sort of demolitioned our structures. And this is what Capricorn represents, is structure. And I think that the demolition, while it was initially rather jarring for us all, it has really opened our minds to being able to operate in a whole new way. And Capricorn tends to follow the rules, the old rules, the rules that have been in place for a long time, and it does not question those rules until recently, because I believe that what's been happening as Pluto has been transiting Capricorn since 2008. There we saw our first African-American president elected in the United States. And as it is leaving Capricorn, it is going to make a very powerful influence on the United States natal chart. And I only bring that up now because it's going to be a ripple effect around the world of how our structures are changing. I think we're going to see a lot more people working from home. The brick and mortar structures are going to change dramatically. And not to say they're going to be thrown out completely, but we're going to start to see the rules changing. We may even see certain implementation of, I don't want to use the word legislation because that doesn't seem like the right word, but new rules of engagement would be a better way to phrase that. This new moon in Capricorn, the new moon is where the sun and the moon come together in creation. Traditionally, the sun represents the father and the moon represents the mother, and they come together in this time of darkness to create new things. So here it is, January. It's the second of the 22 year. And to me, this feels like coming into cooperation with the essence and the authenticity of who and what I am and the structures that I want to implement so I can take advantage of the new renovated version of how we do business and how the structures of our everyday lives are run. When I say me, I mean the collective me. So what we're seeing is the new moon is making what they call a trine aspect. It's called a harmonious aspect. It is where the stars are working in favor of your endeavor. And that is in Taurus. And Taurus, again, rules structure. It rules, I shouldn't say it rules structure because it's ruled by Venus. It rules our personal history. It rules our possessions. It rules how we make money, which is structural in many ways. So what we're seeing is this opportunity for us to really think about our own creativity. Venus also rules our skills with our hands, our throat, and the voice. So being able to express ourselves is going to become very important. And I don't mean that just in a way of our opinions. I mean that expressing ourselves as individuals able to make money and being the co-creators of our own lives. We also are seeing the planet Saturn in Aquarius making a harmonious aspect to Mars in Sagittarius. This is where I was thinking about this morning as I was doing this getting ready for the video, and Mars is the planet of war. And oftentimes we really think of it in a reckless way where Mars just comes in and just shoots off his opinion, says what he wants, lobs off everybody's head, and then takes off. But really, if we think about it, to be a strong, strategic military force, you want to have a sense of calm about you. And this is again where I think Mars has gone through a bit of a transformation, because as Mars and Saturn, and Mars is exalted, it's in its highest vibration when it's in Capricorn. Although it's not in Capricorn right now, I'm just trying to show a relationship between Saturn and Mars that's very cooperative. And, Saturn oftentimes is thought of as depressing and limiting, but this is where Saturn has become the sage teacher for Mars, showing Mars that to jump into action is not always the wisest thing, but to survey the landscape and to see the best and most efficient road. So this is where we're coming together. This is what I believe this Capricorn new moon has to offer us, as Saturn is the ruler of Capricorn. We also have Venus right now transiting Capricorn, and she's in there for an extremely long period of time because she's in retrograde right now. She came almost out of Capricorn. She has had 2 very intense conversations with Pluto. And as she's in retrograde, she's giving an opportunity for us to really think about our structures. How do I express myself? How do I make my money? How do I enjoy my beauty or the beauty of my home? How do I invite in warm experiences for myself? Because as Venus is going retrograde, she is making a harmonious aspect to Neptune. And in this way, it can be very dreamy, but it can also be a bit of an illusion buster, where we're looking where we have had illusions or where we have put our hopes and dreams in a place that really is not going to serve us in the long run. And the other thing that's happened is Jupiter, which in ancient times rules Pisces, is now moved into Pisces by the time of this new moon, and it's at 0 degrees, just starting its sojourn through this sign that it has domain over. So as we start the new year, we have a real opportunity to look at where things may feel a little bit restrictive, and then give ourselves an opportunity to rewrite the structures from an individual point of view. And I think this is going to really be something that as we walk through the year, we find this to be something more in alignment with how we really want to live our lives as humans. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through each one of the signs. And this is by rising sign. If you don't know your rising sign, you can go to any one of the free websites on the internet, plug in your date of birth, your time of birth, your location of birth, and it will give you your natal chart. I believe, and the rising sign represents our perception, how we walk through the earth, what is our natural instinct of viewpoint. The second, to me, and maybe more powerful influence is the moon. Spirit has shown me over and over again that we are emotional beings, and we actually create and co-create with the universe on an emotional level. So when you don't believe in yourself, when you have more fear than you have faith, you're really manifesting on that platform of fear. So if you want to, I would check my moon. I really believe that's a strong influence, and I would put that at a par level with my rising sign. And then on a third level is the sun for me. This is how I perceive it. This is why I call myself an intuitive evolutionary astrologer, because the sun is how we project ourselves out into the world. It's almost the face we wear for others. It's not to say that face is false, but it's not 100% the same as our emotional body. Oftentimes we keep our emotional needs and wants to ourselves. I don't know, how many of you watch television, but there have been commercials for years where the woman is holding a mask with a smile on it as she's walking through her social activities and yet feeling depressed on the inside. So that's why I focus on these dynamics when I do my astrology readings. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do an angel reading, and I'm going to talk about the landscape. So now we know what the new moon represents. Now we're going to talk about the house that it will represent. So Capricorn is going to be a different house for each sign. And each house represents almost like a landscape or an environment. When you walk into a very fancy house, it has a certain feel. When you walk into a more rustic house, it has a certain feel. And that's what we're going to see as we move through this. So we're going to start with Aries, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. A stellium is a group of planets, 3 planets on a more flexible side, 4 planets in a more strict side, which indicates a focus that your soul has chosen for this lifetime. And for me, the stellium, if it has personal planets, Mercury, Mars, Venus, the sun, the moon, these are more, this is very powerful because these are very fast moving planets. Oftentimes the slower moving planets indicate the collective contract. So I'm a little bit looser there. So let's start with Aries. And let's talk about where this is happening. For Aries, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums, we're going to see this happening in the 10th house. Capricorn is your 10th house. It's the highest part of the chart in the traditional wheel, and it represents our public persona, how we are perceived, our career, our ambitions in our career, our success within those careers. It can rule politicians, government, authority. And what we're going to see is, how is this new moon? What seeds can you plant for yourself in the genre of your career, in what you want to move forward? And I want to offer this too, because I think that Venus's sojourn through Capricorn is important, because there's a female energy that's attached to Venus. So I want to offer it this way. For Aries, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums, Venus is asking you, how are you receiving your career? In some ways, is your Martian, being Mars, your ruling planet, pushing you to move forward when there's a little part of you that gets to receive inspiration, receive divine guidance, receive some sort of intuitive hit that tells you when is the good time to move forward? Hence, going back to the beginning of the video, with this sextile between Mars and Saturn that's happening at the same time as this new moon. So let's see what Spirit has to say. I'm going to do 4 cards spread with the angel cards, and then the Camelot deck. Oops. All right. Our first angel just popped out. That's Crystal, saying have faith and hope. There's more on the horizon that you can see. Archangel Raphael is offering a healing, which to me is balance. It's where a negative or an unpleasant situation seems to bring illumination, which empowers me. Then we have Serena, the angel of abundance, and we have Rochelle, the angel of following your heart for prosperity. Now we're talking about the 10th house. The 10th house is where we could see large amounts of money being made. And we've been seeing a lot of activity happening for Aries in general, as Pluto has been squaring you for, again, since 2008. And when I say squaring, this would be early Aries. This would have happened to you probably closer to 2008, 2010, etc. And as you get to the later degrees of Aries, this is where the squares are happening now, or the later dates, the April 17th, 18th, 19th dates. All right, Aries. Crystal's being joined by the Burden card. Archangel Raphael is being joined by a water fairy. Serena is being joined by the letting go card. And Rochelle is being joined by the fear card. Crystal talks about having faith and hope. There's more on the horizon. For Aries, when I talk about a square, it's a tense conversation. And the zodiac, for those of you that are kind of new to astrology, the cardinal signs represent the grand cross. So north, south, east, and west of the zodiac. So they've all been hit by this transiting Pluto in a way that's been digging deep. Are you living in the authentic life? Are you owning and taking responsibility for your own creativity, your own creation in your situation? Pluto represents death and rebirth. It also represents naturally the 8th house, which is other people. So it's really been about how are you processing your dynamic with other people versus who you are yourself. So let's go back to Aries, 10th house, career. How are you processing your work relationships with your boss, your employers, the people you're trying to engage in your vision of what you want to move forward. Because being Martian ruled, you may think I need to push, I need to take action. But I think this is really more about stepping back almost in a meditative way, allowing the universe to provide you inspiration, because timing may be pivotal now. So here we are planting a new moon, or planting our seeds in a new moon for our career aspirations. Venus is in retrograde. Venus rules money. She rules women. So there may be something that's going to come back around that you had started earlier and you felt like it was deflated. It's not going to happen. You know, it should have happened by now. And the timing of it is actually going to end up being like fabulous for you, because you're going to be like, oh my God, if it would have happened when I wanted it to happen, it may not have been as influential or as lucrative as I would have wanted it to be. Because in the opportunity, the obstacle is Archangel Raphael offering a healing. And I always think a healing is some sort of balancing of a distasteful situation where I understand how it has given me tools or empowered me into a more aligned place with what I want to experience. And here's the water fairy. And this is really where this is asking Aries, which is a fire sign, okay, to be more in their intuition. And if you think about the idea of putting water and fire together, it can make steam. So I feel like this is where the real burden comes in, because you're going to have to sit back and sort of allow spirit to give you an opportunity to move forward once the inspiration has revealed itself. Again, new moon in the dark, planting the seeds. And as Venus, the planet of money, the planet of receptivity, the planet of comfort and luxury, as she retrogrades, this really actually might work in your favor, because I shouldn't say might, I think it will absolutely work in your favor, because Serena is the angel of money and abundance. And she's asking you to be serene, Aries, as you go into this new moon, and you're rewriting the structure of how you operate. You're not demoing all your assertiveness. You're just learning when to put on the gas and when to back off a little bit, because the letting go card is, for me, the song from Frozen, Let It Go. It's funny how some distance makes everything look small, and the fears that once controlled me can't get to me at all. It's time to see what I can do to test the limits, to break through. No right, no wrong, no rules for me. I'm free. This to me is the new moon. And I believe that this starts a 6-month cycle that will culminate somewhere around Cancer. I don't have the date off the top of my head, with the full moon in Capricorn. So I really want to offer this. It may feel like a burden for you not to take any direct action, but to rather go into your heart chakra, because Rochelle represents prosperity, and then to sort of look at where you're making up stories because you haven't won in the past. And I think this is representing false evidence appearing real, because what I think will end up happening is, if indeed for some reason the end of the year, the holidays, and everything got bottlenecked, then there is a good possibility that we're going to see movement. Even though Venus is retrograde, the new moon is going to bring back an old opportunity to make money in a way that's public, or brings you that a promotion, a bonus, an opportunity for growth of some kind. And you may have been thinking this should have happened a long time ago. And this is a little bit where I think Spirit's also asking Aries not to go into that energy, but to be gracious and receptive of what comes your way, rather than thinking, I told you so. I knew you'd be back. That could be a little bit shadow side of Mars. All right, let's go on to our Tauruses. So the landscape of this new moon for Taurus is actually in the 9th house. The 9th house is traditionally ruled by Sagittarius. It rules foreign travel. It rules legal systems in the sense of judicial systems. It rules priests and religion and faith and philosophy and higher education. So now this is Capricorn. So somehow Taurus is going to get an opportunity to revisit, I think, your belief system about how you create money, about how you interact in your relationships as well. Venus is your ruling sign. And I'm throwing her into the mix because she's in Capricorn and she's going back and forth right now. So as she moves forward, she offered this opportunity to start to lift the rug on things that weren't making you necessarily happy and old beliefs that you have not allowed to evolve with you. It's almost as if Taurus gets triggered about something that makes you happy, that you inadvertently go to the loss of it. And that's the history. Taurus also naturally rules history. So I want to offer it that the ninth house may afford you some foreign travel, although I think traveling right now is a real challenge. But I think that overall, this is going to be about traveling to new places in your mind. Taurus is naturally a fixed sign. When it makes its mind up about something, it kind of doesn't move. Right? It says, I don't know about that. And it wants to feel a sense of security. So I think this is where you have an opportunity, Taurus, to feel a sense of security because your perception has come in and your emotional body has aligned to a sense of belief that you can indeed achieve the things you want to achieve. And now part of it is implementing your new belief system in very, very Capricorn-y, meaning take your time, let everything settle, understand you might have a little back and forth with your belief system. Okay, here we go. And I think if you do have like a little dip back into your fears, I think you need to say to yourself, that was then, what about now? All right, Taurus. Whoops. Your first angel is Mystique. The second is Layla. The third is Crystal. They all fell out of the deck. And the final is Yvonne. Now, again, I want to offer this new moon, and all new moons are planting seeds in darkness, the unknown. So there is a strong sense of intention and faith, and also not overwatering the seed or the new seedling and the sprout. If you stare at it or if you overwater it, you'll kill it or you'll become impatient with it. Mystique is saying, keep charging ahead, expect miraculous solutions. And then there's the trust card. Layla is being joined by the horse. Now we're talking about ninth house, which is naturally Sagittarius. The horse to me represents Sagittarius. We have Crystal in the in the angel's advice, being joined by the serpent, opportunity to shed a new skin. And then in the final position, we have Yvonne being joined by the birth and the rebirth card. So this is what I want to say. This new moon is making positive aspects to Taurus in general. Taurus has had Uranus moving through its sign since 2017. Uranus represents revolution, liberation, lightning inspiration, electricity, nervous breakdowns, anxiety. It also represents space and innovation, because for my Tauruses, this is where I'm going. The ninth house of beliefs, I feel like you're getting a huge renovation. And rather than feeling stuck in an old way, I feel like you're starting to think it's not about the results I see today, but about the seeds I'm willing to sow as I move forward. Because Mystique is saying to keep charging ahead, expect miraculous solutions. And then we really see this angel, this unicorn angel, coming out of the dark and into the light. And part of this trust is not necessarily to trust outside forces, but to trust your own evolution. Because this is what the human does not give themselves credit for. I've got work to do here. I've got work to do with my inner child. Sometimes there is no work to be done. It's just to sit in this moment and make a choice of what makes you happy. And being ruled by Venus, And having this in the 9th house for you, this new moon, it's an opportunity for you to plant new seeds for structure in the new belief system that you want. Because here we have Layla saying to get out into nature, which Taurus loves, and to really talk to God and the angels about what your intentions are. And this is your new belief system. This is the new version of what you want for yourself and what you're willing to do in the sense of working in cooperation with spirit to attain those goals, because it is going to require a certain amount of faith and unknowing as you shed a skin of needing a sense of earthly security. That's the thing about Taurus. It's an earth sign. It wants to see the money in the bank. It wants to see the food on the table. And sometimes there's a sense of having to trust that the food's in the oven and it's being baked or cooked. And the world right now is so scary with so many 2.0 versions of fear that we can inadvertently feel that ripple effect and then look at how we are vulnerable to it, because spirit is really asking Taurus to be vulnerable to their new belief system as they start this new renovated version of themselves, almost thinking of yourself as a caterpillar that's gone through this transformation. And now there's a bit of further to go as the cocoon breaks and your wings must dry before you can take flight. And I think what this really is talking about is your belief in yourself, that you are a manifester, that you are a powerful co-creator. And when you're willing to take the dynamics of Taurus, which is a beast of burden, so you're willing to do the work to plod along. And then the idea of Capricorn, again, another sort of long-term thinker here, and you put that on the table, you'll start to see manifestations very quickly, because you'll take your focus off of the immediate worry and go into the long-term goal. And then the immediate worry will start to be appeased, because you'll start to see evidence of your own focus drawing in what you want to manifest. All right, let's go on to our Geminis. Gemini, this is in your 8th house. And it's very interesting to me. I don't know why I want to say this for Gemini, but the 8th house rules other people's money traditionally. And this is at a 12 degree, which also rules lots of money. So I'm very curious as to see how this might affect Gemini, especially Geminis who have any of their personal planets. Like if your moon is at 12 degrees Capricorn, I think this is really going to set a whole new tone and revolution for your how you interact with other people. And if you've depended on people more than you've depended upon yourself, you may feel as if you want to liberate yourself from that dynamic, because it's making a good aspect to Uranus. So Gemini, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Again, Capricorn is your 8th house. The 8th house traditionally rules taxes, inheritances, death and rebirth. It rules the occult, and it rules sex. It rules detectives. It rules psychology. Now we apply the idea of Capricorn being there, and there's this little bit of a restricted feeling to all those dynamics. You know, there could be a sense of duty, like you're the person who must give up your money for another, or you're a person who is working for somebody who has money, or in a family dynamic of money, and you're feeling trapped in a situation dutiful to that dynamic. And it also provides security for your well-being on the planet. So I think there's an opportunity to plant seeds to revolutionize that, to take the elements of control off of yourself, meaning someone else's control. And fear is a very, very powerful controller as well. You know, sometimes we're in jobs that we really don't like, and yet we think to ourselves, well, you know, I'm so afraid if I leave this job that I won't be able to find another job, or I'll be scrutinized and looking for another job. And this is really where I think this new moon is about planting seeds in this idea of first here, in your belief system and how you're thinking. Gemini rules the brain. It rules the mundane thoughts, the monkey mind in some way. So as a Gemini, look, where am I saturating myself? Venus, again, is ruling money. It's going retrograde in your house of other people's money. So there may be this feeling of feeling restricted, or like, let's say you are a stay-at-home parent, stay-at-home spouse, and you're feeling frustrated because you have to go to your spouse to ask for resources to do what you need to do. This is, I think, a time when you're planting seeds in this new moon to revolutionize yourself in this way. And if not in the material world, meaning not physical, but even in the way you're perceiving it. Because I think oftentimes with the old rules of, we used to say a stay-at-home mom, right? And so that mom felt somehow diminished when she had to go to her spouse to ask for money. But being a stay-at-home mom is an incredibly challenging, difficult, and endless job for a solid 18 years, 24/7. And then maybe if your child leaves the nest at 18, the job goes down to 18 hours a day, but it never ends. So why does the primary parent who cares for the children diminish their role because someone else is providing a dollar bill? That needs to be renovated. That thought, that belief. And that's where I'm going with Gemini. Just one of the examples. Here we go. All right, Gemini, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. Our first angel is Athena. The second is Rosetta. The third is Oceana, and the final is Ray. Well, it's funny that I would use parenting as an example, and Rosetta represents parenting and guiding and teaching children. And Gemini is a teacher. So let's see. Gemini, Athena is being joined by the restriction card. Rosetta is being joined by the burden card. Oceana is being joined by the disruption card. And Ray is being joined by the death card. This new moon, to me, for you, is very much about asserting yourself, not necessarily towards another person in the physical, like creating an argument or having to have a conversation about something. It feels very much about, how do I restrict myself by my thought process, anticipating what I have been taught by another situation? Because this could very much, Capricorn again rules authority, it rules government. This may be your 8th house, but you may feel a sense of authority through whatever this dynamic is, because Spirit is asking you to lovingly assert yourself. And this restriction card doesn't feel like it's about restriction. It feels like it's about really taking a pause to reflect on how you assert yourself, because there is something going on here. Rosetta represents parenting, guiding, teaching children. You could be a teacher. You could be part of, this whole dynamic where other people are making decisions about your industry and it's affecting you in a really challenging way, not letting you do your job. But I want to offer it this way, because the human will think that I must take action in order for things to change. And I absolutely disagree with that, in the sense that the action can be counterintuitive if I'm not first connecting with my being energy. So Gemini, what is your being energy? Are you lovingly asserting yourself? And in some ways, not to another person, but within your own mind. Like, for instance, if you have not talked to somebody for some reason, I don't want to use the word ghosting, but, time has drifted and you feel like, wow, what did I do? Why aren't they reaching out? This is an opportunity to really think, I didn't do a damn thing. So maybe it's not about me. Maybe it's about something else. And I'll find out about it later. Because to me, when I look at this, I feel a real sense of burden for the inner child of belief. But I also feel like those of you that are Gemini influenced and that are dealing with children, whether it is parenting or otherwise, are really feeling a burden. And that burden is that your instincts, everything you feel on the inside is being disrupted by what you're being told on the outside. And I want to offer it this way because I feel like I have very much personally been feeling a very strong need to meditate more so than ever before, and at deeper levels of meditation. Because when I look at Ray and the Death card, I feel as if you are, as a Gemini, which is an air sign, a strong thinker, you're looking at the 8th house right now, which represents Capricorn and authority, and you may be feeling like your hands are tied, you can't do anything. You know, if you're being required to, do this or that for whatever reason it may be, I feel like if you really connect with spirit about what your intentions are, then spirit will offer you an opportunity to transform what you now feel is restricted. And part of your job is not to try to take a physical action in your community, but to rather send up your beam to spirit and say, this is what my alignment is to the outside dynamics. I want to bring Venus into the mix again, because Venus may be affecting your money and your self-esteem. And, people are telling you that you can't do this until you do that, and you can't do this until you boost that. And, all of this may be feeling like, holy crap, this doesn't feel aligned to me. So this is where I want to really look at how I'm asserting myself, because maybe I shouldn't be asserting myself to humans who are also in fear, but rather looking for that transformation through spirit. By putting my intention up, whatever that may be, where I lovingly want to assert myself, and then taking a moment to see how sometimes when I assert myself, it's based on fear. It's based on an old story. Venus represents our personal history, and it usually in direct relation to our families. And our families are the impetus for our love relationships. All right, let's go on to Cancer. Again, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. This new moon is going to be happening for you in your 7th house of partnerships. And partnerships are not just intimate partnerships. They're also business partnerships, contracts of any kind that involve cooperation with others. So let's see what Spirit has to say for you. As I'm shuffling the cards for Cancer, I can't help but think about this trine aspect that's happening with Taurus. So there may be something very unexpected, or something that I feel like a good surprise may come in the form of your 7th house. So it could be something that is, again, 7th house is ruled by Venus naturally. So it rules a comfort and feeling good and feeling warm and cozy. And your 7th house, I feel like this is something about the structure of your home becoming more aligned to a version of what you want it to be. I guess that's the way I want to put it. I don't feel like I want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, but it almost feels, I keep getting this really strong feeling with Cancer of this wanting to feel a sense of family around them, a sense of that, the community, whether it's a friend family or family. And I feel like this may be an opportunity to plant seeds in your work or contracts environment to have more cohesive or more harmonious relationships where you're seen more and your value is displayed more within those partnerships. That's the way I want to put it. I hope that was succinct. So let's see what Spirit has to say for Cancer. Our first angel is Isabella. The second is Rochelle. The third is Vanessa. And the final is Ariel. So we know that Cancer is ruled by the moon, and the moon, it represents the mother, it represents nurturing, but it represents our intuition. It represents that inner knowing. It represents a sense of prophecy, and not in a way of magic, but in a way of momentum. It's almost like, they say mother's intuition, because she knows her child and she knows how her child responds. So she knows her child's momentum and therefore the potential outcome. Mother's intuition. Because I want to say this next year, being 2022, feels very polarizing in the sense of there's going to be people whose sense of co-creation becomes extremely magnificent and big, and they're willing to do that. And then there's going to be people that are like, no, I don't co-create anything. These things happen to me. And this polarization is going to create some sort of break. And I don't mean it in a negative way. I mean it in a very empowering way. And that's why I think we're starting off this new moon in Capricorn with this idea of rewriting the structure. So we're more in cooperation. The twos represent cooperation with our own heart and the structure that we like and require as humans, as pack animals who like to understand our environment and like to put things in compartments. All right, Cancer. Isabella is saying the timing is right for this release of emotional baggage, for this feeling disempowered or not valuable to go away. Rochelle says, as you honor and follow the guidance of your heart, your fear will lift. Vanessa is saying, do you have faith or fear? Because you need to make choices. That one of the shadow sides of Cancer is a little bit of insecurity, represented by the crab. The crab crawls sideways, and so it doesn't really take forward action. And I feel, because there's always this nurturing dynamic involved with Cancer, that because my focus is out towards others, I can be a little self-deprecating, and that's not always good for the whole. So Isabella is saying, yes, the timing is right for Cancer to really start to think about the emotional baggage that you have released or you have reconciled, and allow this new moon to really put in the structure of the new versus the old. Because now I think you're becoming more equipped to identify where fear is presenting itself in a way that is not authentic, and your heart gets to take over. And as you trust your heart, you'll start to see what I like to think of as harmonious wealth. Money does not necessarily make a person happy. There's money affords us the independence to pursue our happiness. So I think this is where Venus is going to start to differentiate that for you, as she's, transiting your 7th house of partnerships and then coming back as she retrogrades. You're going to start to think about this. You're going to look at the feminine aspects of your relationships. Are they working for you? Are they fair? Are they even? Are you getting as much as you're giving? Because it's time to have faith. That's Vanessa, in your choices, and your choice that you're being offered is to follow your heart and not your fear. And in some ways, the crab, the Cancer crab is the biggest pack animal of all, because it is representing the mother, the nurturing energy, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the one. And I think a little bit of rewriting that in more balance is how you're going to find the harmony that you want, because Ariel is offering you new experiences as you're willing to walk through this differentiating process of understanding that it's important to catch up with your own evolution. And if indeed your evolution has been more cerebral, like, I know I should, not be a hoverer, or I know I should, take better care of myself, so I set an example for the people around me that I love. That's in here. And it's time to come here so that you can create a new structure. And 6 months from now, you could see a really big dynamic shift in that for you. And again, this is in your house of partnerships, but every partnership is only as healthy as the partnership you have with yourself. I'm just saying. All right, let's go on to our Leos, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. Capricorn is your 6th house of service. It's the 6th house of health. It's the 6th house of our pets. It's employment and employers. It's also slavery. And we say that because oftentimes we feel enslaved to a certain dynamic, especially a work dynamic that provides us with what we believe is a material security. So let's see what this new moon in relation to a wonderful aspect with Uranus that can offer you a liberation, an unexpected revelation that allows you as a Leo to stand in the leadership that you represent and to move forward for yourself. And I want to say this too, because this is a 12 degree new moon, and that 12 degrees, it's got a few minutes on it, but I just rounded off to the 12. It's a very auspicious, it's a very profitable, it's a very, it's the sign of it's this degree of millionaires. So in Capricorn specifically, 12 degree Capricorn, that's where the money comes in. So there is a possibility that as Leo moves forward in their vision, that in the next 6 months, you could truly see signs that your vision is starting to come into play. And I mean it in a tangible way, not just conceptual. Oceana is your first angel. The second is Indriel. The third is Celeste. And the final is Shanti. Well, interesting. Celeste represents work, moving, meaning moving to a new place of employment or a new home. But if this is Leo's 6th house of work and Capricorn represents our I mean, that makes perfect sense to me because Capricorn represents authority, government, leadership, how we're seen in the public eye. Oceana is being joined by the eagle. Indriel is being joined by the goblin. Celeste is being joined by Lady of the Lake. And Shanti is being joined by the dragon. Okay, so again, new moons are about planting the seeds. The seeds are not ready to be harvested. They have to be tended to in a very careful way. The elements, can come in. We could overwater, we could underwater, because everything that happens for Leo is going to happen through your emotional body and your willingness to really stand in a strong sense of integrity for the process. Okay, the process of you swimming up through what you know on an intuitive level and wanting it just to manifest and be available to you. Because again, new moon, we have a 6-month process until our full moon and the culmination of the cycle. Because right now, I think that there's going to be a series of inspirations, and you're wanting to move the story forward is really starting to kind of piss you off. And if we think about how much restriction we've all experienced in general over the last 2 years, Leo being a sign of leadership, being a fire sign full of creativity and inspiration and wanting to just blaze really. And you've been contained in some ways. So now having this happen in your 6th house, I think gives you an opportunity to really see how process works to your advantage. That sometimes when we as humans look at the timing of something, we start to negate it if it doesn't happen in the timing that we think is appropriate. And Spirit is saying a new job, a new home, something is happening. And I don't think this is a shift in your mind. I actually think this might be a physical dynamic. It feels very grounded to me for some reason. And here's the Lady of the Lake asking Leo to have the courage to hold on to their truth ever so, gingerly is the way I want to put it, because she is not gripping this sword, even though we can see the storm, we can see her hair blowing. This represents the storm of the mind, the storm of the emotions, all in the position of the angel's advice. My willingness to have courage in the face of allowing the earthly plane and my intuition to align for when the movement should take place, because Shanti is bringing you a new sense of peace, but that comes from the inside out. It comes, and I want to offer it this way, because the 6th house represents our health. Capricorn represents old age. It represents, long, arduous efforts. And I feel as if for those of you that are Leo rising, anything in that 6th house that you've been working towards you may have thrown the baby out with the bathwater and thought, well, I don't see any results, so it's not happening. And it could be just the opposite now. And this will teach you that it isn't about trying to be patient during that process, but knowing how your focus sometimes co-creates within the process. So when you take your eye off of whatever you're trying to create in the way of work, service, or your health even, okay, let's say this is about losing weight, Leo. If you've been focused on losing pounds and not how you feel about it, then you've been doing it in the hard way. And now is the time to really remove that dynamic out and say, how do I feel about this? Again, a feeling, and having the courage to go through the process, because part of it is spirit teaching you how your calm intention actually creates at a more rapid rate than your fiery frustration. Okay, let's go on to our Virgos. This is going to be in your 5th house of children, of creation, personal creation. I always think of the 5th house as the most, we talk about the 1st house being the house of self, but it's the discovery of self. By the time we get to the 5th house, which is traditionally ruled by Leo, we have a sense of ourself. And now we want to birth it out into the world for an audience to see. So Virgo, what do you want to birth into the world for an audience to see? I've been talking a lot in my broadcasts and about Virgo representing the journey of the Virgin versus the journey of perfection. And when I say the journey of the Virgin, I mean it in such a way that each experience is new. There is no experience that gives us skills in some respects. So I feel like in the 5th house for Virgo, this is an opportunity for you to go on the journey of enjoying your self-expression without criticism, without expecting yourself to perform in a way that the outside world supersedes your own expectations of your creativity. I watch a lot of home shows. I watch a lot of TV, which everybody knows. And what I've noticed with watching the people like Joanna Gaines and the Marses and Ben and Aaron Napier, they really enjoy their own creativity. They're not critical of themselves to the extent of undermining themselves. And this is where I'm going with Virgo, because this idea of Capricorn can kind of put a damper on your creativity. Expect yourself to be, kind of bound to the rules and regulations of whatever the medium of creativity is. It's also about children, but I'm going to make this more personal for Virgo right now. That's the way it feels to me. Especially with Venus transiting your house as well. Venus rules our self-worth. All right, Virgo, our first angel is Archangel Uriel. The second is Vanessa. The third is Serena. And the final is Opal. All right, Archangel Uriel is being joined by the Burden card. Vanessa is being joined by the Novice. Serena is being joined by the Queen. And Opal is being joined by the Baird. Okay, I must say to Virgo, I very much feel the 5th house of creativity is something that's been frustrating for you. This new moon has such an opportunity for you to rewrite how you're thinking, because you feel like you're being so hard on yourself. You're expecting yourself to perform something, to prove something to the outside world. And I think that is where you might be tripping yourself up, because we have standing in the foundational position, the Burden card and Archangel Uriel, which helps you deal with frustration. And the frustration may be that you have certain expectation of results. And if those results don't come in the way you expect it, you're negating the project, the expression, whatever you're creating in your fifth house. Because here in the opportunity, the obstacle is the novice, which is all about new beginnings. And Vanessa is about faith over fear. And I want to offer it this way because, you could be afraid of not making money at your creative endeavor. But did you start that creative endeavor to make money, or is that the cherry on the sundae? Because I feel again that Virgo, you rule employment. You rule making money. Now we put that in Capricorn and we put it in the fifth house of creation. So yes, you're going to want to make some money at what you create, but I also feel like it's allowing for the process of unraveling those expectations, because the minute you just express for the sake of the joy of it, I wouldn't be surprised if you saw your YouTube channel get some live chat tips, or you start to see your numbers go up on your social media. And what's been stopping it is your judgment of yourself, constantly feeling like you're fighting this new beginning. Why aren't I getting any traction? Why am I constantly starting over? And that is because Virgo, you're a little bit mercurial, a little bit. You're in your head. You're not in reception. Both Serena and the Queen, look at them. They're both in calm positions. They're both about receiving. Serena talks about abundance and money straight up. That's what this is about. And in the final position is Opal and the history card. And I want to offer it this way because this is your inner child. And if indeed, for some reason, you are a Virgo who wants to create children, all the same elements apply just to the child dynamic, because Venus rules our history. And what I believe is happening is Venus is allowing you to rewrite that history in a way that serves you versus pulls you under, and gives you the resources to feel confident as things start to manifest the way you want them to. If you really think about it, if you put out something that you are invested in emotionally, like a little creative baby, and there's no obstacles on the journey, when you get to the height, when you get to the pinnacle, it's scary because you think, oh my God, where's the rug? What's going to be pulled out underneath me? And that's not necessarily true, but it's very human. So as the Virgo encounters challenges along the way, you're going to allow those challenges to turn into resources that empower you to sit and receive the money you want for your creative endeavor, because now you think you've earned it. And that's the vibrational shift. So you can torture yourself as much as you want, but you don't have to. All right, let's go into our Libras. Libra rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. This is in your fourth house. A lot of transformation in the house of home for Libra. Again, cardinal signs, Cancer, Capricorn, Libra, Aries have all been feeling the squares and oppositions of Pluto's influence for a while now. But here we're talking about the new moon in Capricorn. So you have an opportunity to set new intentions for your home, for what you want to experience in your home. And again, we have, for all the signs, there is a trine, because Taurus is making a favorable, or Uranus in Taurus is making a favorable aspect to this new moon. So Libra, our first angel is Shanti, the angel of peace. The second is Desiree and the opportunity or the obstacle. The third is Mystique. And the final is Daniel. Shanti is being joined by the butterfly. Desiree is being joined by the Grail Knight. Mystique is being joined by the forgiveness card, and Daniel's being joined by the dragon. Okay. So Shanti represents peace and the butterfly represents transformation. I would have to say that what it feels like is that the journey of transformation is coming to a place of surrender for you, Libra. I almost feel like if there's been disruption within the family, I mean, you could be a person of my age, I'm in my 60s now, 62, and you could be tending to a parent who is in decline or in some sort of transformation, but your home has been going through a real, your home life, I should say, has been going through a real lifting of the rug of what's important to you, because I believe some of the illusions have been swept away. The Grail Knight can represent seeking the sacred and romance, but it also represents illusion. And we have this aspect during this new moon where Venus and Neptune are making a sextile to one another. Neptune rules illusion. And so somewhere I think there's going to be some sort of conclusion where Libra may have been thinking, inadvertently, sometimes Libra will be like, if I'm a really good partner, then my partner will match my partnerness. And I just don't know if that's always true. So there may be this illusion that you have yourself been perpetrating, that if you're good enough, if you're a good enough mother, father, homemaker, provider, whatever your fourth house dynamic is, meaning you may be single, I'm not sure, but I feel like this is a little bit about the illusions sort of being opened up, and the truth, the authentic truth is going to come through. And I want to say it this way because Mystique says to keep charging ahead, expect miraculous solutions. And then there's the forgiveness card. And for me, this is always about a reconciliation. It's where something challenging makes sense to me so I can then turn it into a positive rather than a negative. There is a very high probability that Libra is going to experience something where an illusion is broken in the home, and you may have been afraid that illusion, when it breaks, is going to break everything up. But what you may end up finding is that illusion, as it's been broken up, is almost like letting air out of a pressure cooker, and it brings more calm, more connectedness, more peace. And your fear that that underbelly of truth that you've been holding back would be a detonator, and you've been wrong. Because here's Daniel, the angel of marriage, my story in marriage, and there's the dragon. She's calm and she's peaceful, and she's aligned to her truth. She doesn't have to force herself. So here we have transformation bringing peace for Libra, and peace in partnerships, peace within the home. But it feels more like it comes through some sort of little bit of a disruption. So let's look at this. New moon, seeds are planted in the dark. When we're in the dark, we're bumbling around a little bit. So I don't want to indicate that there could be an experiential upset as much as I feel like there could be an underbelly of feeling unhappy and unaligned. And when the reveal comes, you may find someone else was in total agreement with you. I agree with you 100%. This house is too big. We don't need this big a house. Our kids have moved out. Let's move. And it could be something that is actually that simple, but in your own mind, you've been thinking it's such a big deal. We've lived here for 30 years. I don't know. Or we just renovated. We don't want to, I just feel like it's something where an illusion gets brought up that actually benefits the whole situation when you show bravery, calmness, and authenticity in your expression of it. Okay, let's go on to our Scorpios. Rising moon, sun, and stellium. This is going to be in your third house. Third house traditionally represents our mind, how we think, what we read, what we speak. And as we read, speak, and think, we teach others all about who we are. So Capricorn is your third house. Where have you felt a little bit of restriction in your community, in your sense of, I have to follow the rules? Oops. Let's look, Scorpio. I think this has more to do with your thought process, to be honest with you. I don't know if I think that has to do with the community right now, because Capricorn is limiting. Capricorn is on its shadow side, can be a little depressing and isolating. And if you've been thinking about that and ruminating on it, then it's been stoking that Plutonian energy that's been making you think that things are dying, and they could be doing just the opposite. All right, our first angel is Caressa, the angel of new chapters. Then we have Adriana leading you to the answers to your prayers. We have Estera asking you to reach for the stars. And then we have Vanessa asking you whether you have faith or whether you're based on fear. Scorpio naturally rules the eighth house of other people's money. And the third house is a very social house as well. So there's this feeling of others attached to this dynamic. And on some level, I think that Scorpio is going to have to push the other people's opinions, the other people's thoughts, the other people's way of being aside, so you can delineate what is most important to you. And that's going to require a bit of an excavation. Caressa is being joined by the cow. Adriana is being joined by the perception card. Esther is being joined by the wind fairy. And Vanessa is being joined by the king. Scorpio, Caressa represents the end of a life cycle, that new happiness awaits you. And then there is the cow, which represents abundance, asking and receiving, and nourishment. And I want to offer it this way because I feel like what Caressa is saying is this is the end of starvation, if you allow it to be. This is the end of feeling less than or feeling as if you are not receiving, because Adriana is trying to lead you to the answers to your dreams, to your prayers and what you want. But in some ways, you're micromanaging the situation. Your perception is micromanaging it. The shadow side of Scorpio is it controls. It's a very powerful sign. Scorpio is so smart that it can actually see the psychology of another human being and play to the psychology rather than the words that come out of that person's mouth. And the other person won't even know it. Now, this is where it gets challenging because you're part of what's been keeping you from what you want. And how do I know that? Because Estera is saying to reach for the stars with your dreams and desires and not to compromise, and to really look at the wind fairy saying, what have you been thinking about? Capricorn's your third house. Again, normally ruled by Gemini, the mundane mind, the everyday mind. So how much of a percentage are you in your everyday mind of fear, of lack, of being left behind? And what's the price you're willing to pay to truly be happy? Because Vanessa is all about faith over fear, and the king is all about justice and male energy. And if you are a female who has been barking up the tree of a relationship that you actually know doesn't serve you, oh, when we're together, I'll feel this way, it won't matter. That's not true. And it's time for you to get real with yourself about what you really want in the way of a partner and how that partner shows up for you. And then to ask yourself, do I really believe that? Or have I slowly, because again, Scorpio rules other people's money. Other people, we have sex with other people. Scorpio rules sex. It rules inheritance, finances, taxes. So as we commingle all of those things, some people can feel very powerful, and then some people can feel very powerless. So I think for Scorpio, as you get clear, you have an opportunity to go from feeling less than to feeling more than. But part of it is you being willing to see your own perception and how you may have been stubborn. Scorpio is a fixed sign, doesn't want to change its mind. So here you are. You've been thinking, oh, if I just keep shaving off this and making myself easier and easier to be around, I'm going to get what I want. But I'm not sure that you're being fair to yourself. And I think it's time to start to get real about what your real needs are, and then to plant the seeds in this new moon. And I think this new moon seeds could be something as I'm willing to be brave to my inner knowing, and then allow the universe to inspire me into actions that lead me where I want to go. You cannot hug a cactus and expect it to be a teddy bear. And you cannot hug a teddy bear and expect it to be a leader. Okay. Let's go on to our Sagittariuses. This is going to be in your second house, which naturally is ruled by Taurus. So it's going to rule our possessions, our money, our history. And also, I want to say this Sagittarius, this is also the same rising sign as the United States itself. So very interesting to see how this plays out as we move forward. All right, Sagittarius, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Sagittarius naturally rules foreign travel. We know that, but it also rules judicial systems. It rules priests and churches and religion and philosophy and broader concepts of things. And the second house naturally rules our money, our possessions, our history of how we view ourselves. So let's see what this new moon has to offer you. Our first angel is Grace and Antoinette. The second is Opal. The third is Isabella. And the final is Daniel. Capricorn for me has been going under a tremendous renovation as Pluto's been transiting it since 2008. And sometimes I feel like, there are traditions that may not always be in balance, but they make us feel comfortable. They make us feel at home. And as I look at Sagittarius having this new moon in their second house, there may be something going on in how you value yourself, how you value your skills, how you value your voice in relationship, and how you've been presenting yourself. Because Grace and Antoinette represents compassion. And then we have the spider. And the spider for me represents relationships. In the opportunity, the obstacle, we have Opal and the trust card. In the angel's advice, we have Isabella and the frog representing emotional cleanup. And in the final position, we have Daniel, the angel of intimate love history, with the burden card. So Sagittarius, I want to offer this because right now there could very much be Saturn could be, Capricorn could be representing the structures around you within your family history, the perceptions of your history, I can't help but think that, as the United States comes up on its Pluto return, during the Civil War, families were torn apart by the idea of some believed slavery was fine and others believed slavery was a crime on humanity. And within the same family, we saw things being torn apart because of these beliefs. So this is where I'm going with this, because I don't believe things have to be torn apart. I don't believe we have to go to these crazy opposites, but I do believe that there's a certain amount of compassion that is going to be required from Sagittarius during the next 6 months of this new moon as the structures are rewritten. And it's so easy for Sagittarius to adapt to new situations because you rule foreign travel, you rule concepts that are not concrete but abstract. So as you see the world, the relationship around the world, the web, have compassion for yourself, obviously, but also for others, I think. Because, and I want to say this too, because I'm going to go to the final position, which is Daniel, the angel of marriage, but also history. And there's the burden card. So I think that there's very much a possibility that as we walk through this, this is in your second house. And so I'm really playing to the history of my self-worth, the way humans perceive self-worth. This feels a little bit as if Sagittarius is taking on that broader perspective, that you're not necessarily taking it personally, but you're being able to observe how others are processing these new dynamics. Because I see Opal, which represents children and God taking care of children on earth and heaven. And there's the trust card. And it very much is playing to me like Sagittarius is seeing the spiritual side of this new moon and whatever it may be dismantling before it reassembles, because Spirit is saying, yes, the timing is right for this emotional cleanup. And then again, we go into Daniel, the angel of relationships, but the angel of history and relationships and the burden of it. So I think that what we're going to see is our Sagittarius rising moon, sun, and stelliums stand a little bit more in leadership for those bigger concepts of all men are truly created equal, and that everybody deserves a right to pursue their own happiness. And part of that is understanding that as we start to plant the seeds for this true balance, or this new alignment to balance versus a hopeful version of balance, that some may rebel against it. Some may get stuck in their Saturnian old ways. So rather than fighting against them, you're just going to be able to hold space for them to catch up. I hope that makes sense. It's very broad for Sagittarius there. All right, let's go into our Capricorns. This is going to be in your first house of self. And if there is something I've been feeling for Capricorn for at least 2 years, if not longer, it's Capricorn being rewritten from that old goat to the baby goat. So let's see how you're going to perceive yourself moving forward as you plant new seeds for who and what you want to be, not who and what is expected of you to be. Capricorn, our first angel is Grace and Antoinette. The second is Athena. The third is Serena. And the final is Mystique. Venus transiting through Capricorn can very much tighten money up, especially as she's in retrograde, just because she's going to start reviewing how she spends money. So, because if indeed you're a Capricorn and you've been doing some investing in modern technologies or Bitcoin or any of these things, don't freak out. Don't freak out. Grace and Antoinette is being joined by the novice. Athena is being joined by the cow. Serena is being joined by the dog. And Mystique is being joined by the deer. You know, it's funny because first house of self is always about re-examining who and what and blah, blah, blah I am. When I look at Capricorn, I feel like very much this is about planting the seeds of the evolved version of yourself. It's as if you're like, yes, Teri, I am a baby goat. I have all the tenacity of the old goat, but I have the excitement and the dance of the baby goat, because here is self-compassion for your new beginning as you start walking a path you're unsure of, and yet at the same time you're very sure that this is the path you want to go down, because now I feel like you're really starting to assert yourself in a more earthly way. Again, we have this new moon making an aspect to Taurus, and Taurus, money, Capricorn, money, earth signs, trines are harmonious, and Uranus can bring something unexpected, but it may not be something that's that unexpected. It may be something that you've been working towards that you sort of had to allow to percolate or forget about for a while, so it could come to fruition, because now is the time to lovingly assert yourself towards how you want to create your abundance. And I mean that sincerely and strongly, because here in the angel's advice is Serena telling you money will come when you follow what you love. So this is where you take all the Saturnian energy of dutiful behavior, stoic, being able to march down that road through mud, thick rain, postmen could be Saturnian, because they work through all the conditions without asking any questions. But now Saturn and this new moon is asking you to work on things you love in a serene way and to really keep charging ahead, because it's a time to really promote gentleness and diplomacy as you walk through this process. And the process is still unstable. So I want to offer it this way, because in your first house, what I think may be happening is you may start to see the seedlings of some work endeavor, some leadership position, some standing more in the forefront, I want to say, for some reason, of your own life. And in doing so, it's not about trying to take it at 90 miles an hour. It's about taking it one step at a time, and it's almost like taking a step and making sure you're aligned to the baby goat versus the old goat, and then trying to use them in cooperation with one another. So you don't go too far and be a reckless baby goat, and you don't go too far into the old energy of being afraid to move. Because I think what's going to happen is Capricorn's going to start to sow the seeds for creating more money, abundance. And that may come through the idea of investigating and playing with investments. Now, I would not really suggest starting an investment while Venus is in retrograde. Again, this is a movement backwards. So I would do the research for that and then plan on implementing that as I'm inspired by spirit, with things that feel like a combination of safe and exciting. All right, let's go on to our Aquariuses. This is going to be in your 12th house. Saturn is your co-ruler. So let's see what's going to happen for you. The 12th house traditionally rules spas, hotels, hospitals, laboratories, places where people are by themselves in either work or reflection. It can be meditation. It can also be prison. So there's a sense of opportunity to plant the seed. This feels very, it also rules past lives, the 12th house. And Aquarius is futuristic. And I wonder if there isn't the opportunity for you to sort of get this feeling of an inner knowing of a mission that you have agreed to. So you're an Aquarius rising, and all of a sudden you start feeling this new structure coming. And maybe it is stepping out on the internet and talking about innovative concepts or new ways of being with humanity, how we're treating each other. And there's a sense of trepidation because you've been there before. You've been in this position where you've stepped out into a leadership position, and it may not have worked out well for you in the past life. If you watch any history, I mean, sometimes you just utter the wrong word and you were like in the courtyard being burned at the stake. It didn't take much back in the day for people to react very harshly. So you may be feeling this sense of really wanting to start something new, and yet this dynamic of the old is shadow siding you. And I think this is an opportunity really for meditation. Let's see. Our first angel is Oceana. The second is Rochelle. The third is Serafina. And the final is Maya. No, Aquarius is ruled by Uranus, and oftentimes Aquarius can feel nervous and unsure and kind of use that anxiety. It feels a little outside of me, but I also think it's that Saturn co-ruling your Aquarius, where Saturn is like, here are the old rules. Here's how you're expected to do it. And Uranus is like, I don't want to do it that way. That's not even smart. Why would I want to do it that way? So there's this conflict, right, for Aquarius. And I feel like that's why you feel anxiety, because you have to break the rules. And there's a certain amount of anxiety when you're about to go up against England and declare your independence, and you're going to be seen as a criminal, but you're really a revolutionary. You're really a hero. And I feel like this is what's going on. There's past life memory freaking you out, or a soul's natural soul pulling that's making you feel a sense of leadership and also a sense of trepidation about that leadership. All right. Aquarius, rising moon, sun. And if you have a stellium in the 12th house of Aquarius, I absolutely think you are an innovator, a revolutionary, a Knights Templar, maybe in a past life. But right now, your emotional body is asking you to trust it as you swim up through your fear. And that fear, I have my Chiron in Aquarius, and I'm convinced, is it 22 degrees? I am convinced that I was murdered for having a big mouth in a past life because, you know, I said something that wasn't following the rules. So when I stepped into this world, I had concerns. How will I be received? I don't want to be on the island of misfit toys. I don't want to feel ostracized. So this is some of the shadow side of Aquarius, because you're a pioneer on steroids compared to Mars, because you're going out into space, not just into the land next door. So now this is really a time to tuck in. And I do think meditation will help quell your fears, because Spirit is saying you're extremely intuitive. And now it's time to start following your heart. Aquarius also rules science. And science and spirituality can be very cooperative, but on the onset of just looking at it, it can feel very different. So this is really your opportunity, is to transform and to trust that inner knowing that it's not here to detonate you this time. It's not to ostracize you or to make you feel alien, but rather to make you feel whole and complete. Because as you trust a deeper knowing of your own leadership, Aquarius, harmony is going to come to your family, and you're going to be able to shed a skin and feel a sense of knowledge that happiness is your God-given right. And what you have signed up for in this lifetime was not about being pulled out of your bed at night and thrown into a pit, but rather being allowed to feel comfortable and safe, because you're learning how, this is Maya, the angel of education. And then we have the let it go card again. I know it says letting go, but this is the song from Frozen in a 44, which is a builder's number. It's funny how some distance makes everything look small, and the fears, the anxiety that used to control me can't control me anymore. It's time to see what I can do. Thank you, Aquarius, the ultimate space traveler, to break the limits. So as you trust that your fear in some ways is alerting you to a lack of alignment to your truth. And then you are gentle with yourself as you're like differentiating between the Saturn ruler, AKA Capricorn in your 12th house, and Uranus, your modern day ruler that wants to liberate you from any chains that have bound you. And then you'll know that your anxiety, or the anxiety that comes over you every once in a while, is not here to scare you, but working with you to tell you you're not in alignment to your truth. All right, let's go on to our final sign, Pisces, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. This is going to happen in your 11th house of networks, hopes and dreams, wishes, of humanitarian endeavors, of networks of all kinds, social networks, friend networks, family networks. Let's see how this Capricorn in your 11th house is going to, this new moon is going to affect you. Our first angel is Archangel Uriel. Second is Sonia. The third is Astera. And the final is Rochelle. Joining Uriel is the disruption card. Joining Sonia is the partnership card. Joining Astera is the deer. And joining Rochelle is the movement card. You know, most of the time I'm going to refer to the 11th house as networks, humanitarian endeavors, but today I'm not. Today I'm going to actually refer to it as your heart. The 11th house rules our hopes and dreams, our desires, what we want to experience for ourselves. And I think you've had a lot of frustration in that area. And Pisces, your natural inclination is just swim away from a situation. In the foundational position, we have disruption, and we have Archangel Uriel with frustration, unforgiveness, and anger. And we have it here in the sign of partnerships with Sonia, who is our deceased loved one or our team. And I feel as if maybe you have been trying to implement something and it hasn't happened yet. Something that your hopes, your desires, your dreams, what you want. You know, I've been working on my YouTube channel for a while, and it's been a little disheartening for me. I'll be honest with you. I get kind of a weird energy before I do a video, and then I'm always happy when it's done. And I have this push-pull energy about it. And I think it's that 22-degree Aquarius. But in any case, the reason I'm saying this is because for Pisces, I think you're frustrated that things haven't happened. And at the same time, I think you might be a little scared for your dreams to come true. I feel like it's a little bit about your focus, because in the partnership area, you could be frustrated that you don't feel a partnership with spirit. You might have lost your partner in the last year and a half, either physically altogether or metaphorically, that you broke up, and there may be a frustration about that. There's a sense of feeling loss. And then in the angel's advice is Astera saying to reach for your dreams, reach for the stars, reach to the stars with your dreams and desires. And then here's the gentleness and diplomacy of the deer. So I feel like there could potentially be where Pisces was inadvertently molding themselves into a relationship or into a dynamic that wasn't really serving their true happiness. And that situation, if it hasn't already detonated, it probably will detonate. And this is not to hurt you, but to align you to a deeper truth of your heart, and where true harmony and peace can come in. And there's the movement card, because whatever hopes and dreams you have attached to your 11th house for your own personal creation, for what you hope for social systems and humanity, or even what you hope for in the way of making money, because the 11th house is again a money house. Capricorn is a house that requires endurance, regardless of where it is. And it will reward you, but it will not reward you for false statements, false actions, and false hopes. So if you're angry and you're feeling disruption in your partnerships, it could very well be because you're not being aligned to your truth in the partnership. And it's time for you to start to reach for the stars with a deeper truth of what you want. And then you will find movement as you align to your heart. And that's the beauty. And we'll probably see that in about 6 months at the full moon. So I don't want to make it a 6-month cycle, but I think what we'll see is something really culminate by then. So we can see progress throughout that period of time. And then we might have a real conclusion when we get to Cancer time, meaning Cancer season. All right. That's it for me for today. Welcome 2022. Goodbye 2021. We have more challenges ahead because we are becoming more expressive of our individuality. So the challenges that break away the old structures, if we can keep our eye on the prize. Demo is always dusty, it's always dirty, and it's always disruptive. But once that demo is done, the new structure is beautiful. So keep your eye on the prize, everybody. I'll be back soon. Hope you have a merry, merry new year. Again, my name is Teri Hunter. I'm an angel therapy practitioner, intuitive astrologer, empowerment coach, and Reiki master. And if you'd like to book an appointment with me, I am available, and my information is below in the description. Thanks, everybody.